nothing is worse than being glued to your phone on a holiday, whether it's Thanksgiving or Christmas. You want to be able to be present. Your business should be serving you, not you serving your business. As you're scaling your portfolio, your skill set is going to need to change over time. What's going on, STR Nation? Welcome back to another episode of the Short Term Rental Secrets podcast. I am your host, Mike Sjogren, here as always with my brother from another mother, Mr. Emmanuel Pani. E, what's going on, bro?
My brother, it's so good to see you. It's the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Super grateful, man. Like if I look at my last 12 months, it's one of those times in my life that I really pat myself on the back. And I wear it pretty much on my sleeve, right? I've gone through separation and there were some bad habits that have kind of taken over my life for quite a while. And to look back a year later and to be in the best headspace I've been in, just happy and just even with you, right? Like with you, with SCR Secrets, with the boardroom, just being able to show up so much better for myself and the people that I love and I care about. Yeah, that's life for me right now, right? Like that's the thing that I'm most proud of. And we had a limitless call yesterday, and you asked somebody what is a successful life, and that to me is a successful life, right? What was it? The working on a worthy ideal, or the improving on a worthy ideal. Yeah.
It was definitely one of those character building moments that I always find. Sometimes life punches you in the face out of nowhere, and it's one of those defining moments where you're either gonna learn and grow from it, or you're gonna retreat into, self-pity and despair and spiral out of control. But every time I've gone through very challenging times and very painful times, I've always found every time that something positive and greater is coming on the backside of that, right? And I always use the analogy of when our son was sick and in the hospital on oxygen. That pain was so great that it spurred me to start this business so that I didn't have to trade time for money anymore, and so that I could always be there for my family. If we didn't go through that and my son was never sick and he was healthy, who knows, man? I might still be in an accounting job right now, slowly building up the portfolio and, dreaming about retiring someday. But sometimes life punches you in the face and it just gives you a wake-up call and it lights a fire under you to just make a big change and just own it and step into it. And so, yeah, man, super proud of you. It's been a hell of a year for you, and honored to be on that journey with you, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. And the last thing I'll say on that topic is like one of my core beliefs in life has always been that life happens for me and never to me. And you and I teach a lot on the mindset and stuff like that. And there is always this understanding of the concepts, but then there's the living of them. And so this year really put my face, for lack of better ways of explaining it, put my face into, do you really believe, that like life is always happening for you and never to you? Like really, like do you really believe it? Because if you really believe it, just relax. Everything is okay. If
Yeah,
you don't
and
believe it,
if you're listening to the show, I mean, you may be going through something right now in your business, right? You might be having issues with your team. You might be having issues with owners if you're co-hosting. You might be having issues with properties or guests or whatever. Are you going to learn from it? Is there a lesson in there somewhere? Or are you going to deflect that and put it back on that other person? Typically, there's some lesson in there. And it might be something simple as like patience, or maybe it's, I don't want to work with owners like this anymore, or I'm going to have a better guest screening process, or I'm going to fix this in the property, or I'm going to fix this in my process or my system so I don't deal with this anymore. There's always going to be challenges. Like as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as an STR host, our job is to solve problems. Like that's what you get paid for, solve problems for people, right? And so when we run out of problems to solve, you don't really have a business anymore, right? So just embrace it. I know it's not always easy. I know that there's some rough times, some really good times, and it can be this roller coaster ride as an entrepreneur, right? But what we really want to focus on this show, and we did an episode about this over the summer, but I want to recap it. As we're getting into the holiday season, it made me think of Rashmi's story on last Christmas Eve when she had a bunch of pipe bursts at some of her properties in Texas when that ice storm came through, and she spent Christmas Eve and Christmas on the phone the whole time, like putting out fires, dealing with insurance companies and guests and owners, and it stunk, right? And she's like, "I'm not gonna do this anymore. I'm gonna figure this out." And it catapulted her to really dial in her processes and her systems. And so I wanted to recap the framework that we talked about over the summer on the 7 steps to elevating the CEO that you can start putting in place now, getting into the holiday season so that when Christmas Eve and Christmas Day and whatever holiday that you celebrate this season, you can be fully present with your family, friends, and loved ones, and you're not gonna be glued to your phone with that anxiety of, "Is it gonna ring? Am I gonna have issues? Am I gonna have to put out fires? Am I gonna have to step away? Am I gonna miss my kids opening presents because I'm dealing with all this stuff?" Right? And so let's dive right into that. And we did do a full deep dive 2-day training on this inside of the STR Secrets Facebook group a couple days ago. So if you guys want that, head over to Facebook, join the free group. We'll get you the recordings where we go a lot deeper and give you some more action steps to implement. But I wanted to walk through the framework. And if you're listening to this, make sure you check this one out on YouTube because I'm going to pull up a visual here that's going to help illustrate this. And this is straight from the presentation that I gave the other day. But there's 7 steps that I use for a bunch of businesses that we have where I can elevate myself out of the operations, out of the weeds, empower really 3 key things that you need for time freedom. You need systems, you need process, and you need people. And the way to build that in a systematic format is through these 7 steps. And the first one is to really define what you want. And what I call it, it's defining your perfect week, right? Ian and I have been working on our new legacy scorecard for the boardroom, which is really a scorecard for your overall life and building a holistic life that you enjoy. And one of the exercises that I put in there is your perfect week. So if you look at the calendar from Sunday to Saturday, from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m., or whatever your waking hours are, if you could construct your perfect average week that you'd have to live for the rest of your life, what would that perfect average week look like for you? Right? From 5 to 6, what would you be doing? From 6 to 7, what would you be doing? Right? And really get clarity around when you have financial independence and your business is running and you've got a great team and they're handling all the ops. Say you get it down to somewhere between 1 and 4 hours a week of your time to just steer the ship. What would you do with the rest of your time? What would financial freedom look like for you? And yes, there'll be bucket list trips and travel and all that fun stuff. But on a normal week, a regular old week, what would you want your perfect week to look like? And that's going to be your North Star. That's your foundation for what's going to drive you to move forward to start implementing these other steps so that the goal is you get to live that perfect week every week going forward. So that's the first step. The second step is to know yourself and really know what your strengths and weaknesses are, right? E and I have very different skill sets, right? Very complementary, where I'm very systems and process focused, and E has a lot more people skills and hospitality and like that serving atmosphere to him, where maybe my strength is going to be on the back end from operations and systems and all those things to where his strengths would be on the front end of, you know, sales, customer support, guest services, all those things. Really figuring out like what are you good at and what are your blind spots? Because that's going to tee you up to figure out who you're going to need on your team for certain areas throughout your business. So once you get clear on that, then you go to identify what you need. And the way that I always recommend figuring out what you need is to do a 2-week time study. And again, I'm happy to give you a template for this. Jump into that Facebook group and send me a DM or even do a comment in there and just tag me or E and say, "Hey, can I get the 2-week time study template?" And I'll send it over to you. But it's just a simple Google sheet that I made that again goes from Sunday to Saturday from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. in 15-minute increments. And you're going to print this thing out, print out 2 copies. And for 2 weeks, every 15 minutes, you're going to write down what you're doing. Everything from taking a shower to communicating with guests to having dinner with the family, whatever it is, every 15 minutes, you're going to write it down. And what this is going to do, it's going to give you clarity around where your time is going and how much certain tasks in your business are taking you every single week. And then what you're going to do is you're going to rank those things based on, are they dollar producing activities? Do you enjoy doing them? Is it strategic work? Is it mechanical work? got a whole set of instructions for you to follow, but it gives you clarity around where your time is going. And then you're going to take that thing and figure out what do you want to offload to somebody else on your team. And then you take that 2 week time study and then you use it to create the next thing. Step 4 is your 4R doc. And it's essentially a job description. And we call it the 4Rs because it's what is the role? What are the responsibilities? What are the results that this person is responsible for? And then what are the requirements for the role? Okay. So you take that. Then from that point, you want to make sure that your systems are documented or at least the ones that you want to offload to this person. Right. So again, we've got SOP templates. I'm happy to share those with you. You can take them and build them out. Just message me in the Facebook group. You're going to take whatever those things are. And the next time you do something, you're going to record it on Loom and you're going to document it in a Google Doc, or you can use an AI extension like Tango to create a written SOP document so that if you never could do this again, somebody could take that piece of paper and that Loom video and just execute on that process. You're going to write it out in super detail so you could take it and hand it to somebody else. And you're going to do that for whatever processes you're looking to offload first. And eventually you can document everything that you do in your business. It'll be a living, breathing document for how you run your business. From that point, then you're going to start hiring and onboarding. Now, one tip, we do a whole training on this as well, and we covered it last week. So again, just message me in the group. I'll send you the recordings. But hiring and onboarding was something that I really struggled with for a long time because I always had really good systems and process and documentation, but I didn't have a good onboarding process and I didn't have a good hiring process. Right. And what I found was I ended up coming up with a 3-step interview process for people. So the first one was just a culture fit interview. So the first interview, I would just ask questions to get to know this person and really get a sense of their personality. And are they going to be a good fit in our culture, in our company? And would I enjoy working with this person every single day? And if not, then they're gone. Like we're not going to move on to the next phase. So culture fit first. Then the second interview would be more of a traditional interview, asking them job specific questions. What experience do they have? All sorts of things. And then the third and final interview would be some type of skills test, creating some type of dummy scenario. If it's for guest support, how would they answer this question? How would they find this information? Like, how would they handle situations that they're going to face in their job? And once I did that and built out a whole onboarding process, at this point, we have a 100-day onboarding journey to take somebody from brand new to fully up and running and autonomous within, 100 days. Really, it's a lot less than that now, but we've got it mapped out for 100 days, very specific of what day you're going to cover certain things and that whole process. Once I spent the time to really build that out, man, my life got so much easier. And at this point, I'm not even the one recruiting and onboarding people. The team is doing that for me. And then the last part is just managing and leading. Now, as you're scaling your portfolio, your skill set is going to need to change over time. If you've got, 1 to 5 properties now, you're probably still in the weeds. Like you're doing the guest communication, you're processing reservations, you're doing the day-to-day nuts and bolts. You're automating as much as you can through software. But at a certain point, as you continue to scale, then you're hiring people, you're managing people, you're leading people, you're less and less involved in the day-to-day nuts and bolts of the business. You really need to develop your leadership and management skills and have systems in place for that. So part of that whole module is around creating your KPI scorecards, creating clear metrics for your team, creating a meeting cadence, a communication style, a communication cadence with your team, like building out the actual infrastructure so that you can lead them and continue to elevate yourself out of the weeds. Now, again, happy to send you the full. It was a 2-day workshop that we did, a lot more in depth than this, added some goal setting components in there. And we'll do an episode in a few weeks around goal setting and getting clarity for 2025. But there are certain things that you can do right now between now and the holidays. If you take a look at your business, you do your 2-week time study starting now, do that now and start to see what is taking up my time. And is there software that can automate it? Or do I need to hire maybe a part-time virtual assistant? We have a VA recruiting service, or you can go online and find them. That's totally fine. But what can you do now in the next 3 to 4 weeks so that you can actually enjoy the holidays? Nothing is worse than being glued to your phone on a holiday, whether it's Thanksgiving or Christmas or Hanukkah or New Year's Eve or whatever it is for you. You want to be able to be present. Your business should be serving you, not you serving your business. So I wanted to recap that because there are certain things that you can do now that I'd highly encourage you to do now if you feel like you're stuck in the weeds. What happens if you have an issue with a property? Does your team know who to contact? Do you have a point of contact list for every major trade? You know, if you have a plumbing issue, if you have an electrical issue, if you have a handyman issue, like whatever it is, do you have points of contact for your team to call those people instead of calling you? And then you have to call those people. Don't be the middleman. Empower your team to go out and do that. And if you don't have a team yet, that's fine. Figure out what are certain things that you can do to automate. You don't want to be on your phone during the holidays. That sucks. Right.
Mm.
So we wanted to cover this again. E, I don't know if you have any thoughts. I know you've grown this quite a bit since we got going a couple of years ago.
Mm.
And I was like, so what do your systems look like? And you're like, I don't know. Right. And you've got
Yeah.
that pretty dialed in now
Yeah.
between your tech
And
stack and your team.
what's as I was listening to this, right, a couple of things came to mind. One is just overall how my attitude overall in life has changed so much um, when it comes to repetition and repetition of information. I've been around this for a while now. And so you could feel your natural instinct is to kind of like check out, be like, I know this. I've now instead become so obsessed with, am I doing this? And really owning the fact that like I love my craft and I love what I do. And so really continue asking myself, hey, am I doing this to the best of my ability? To the point that I have committed in December to go through the entire STR secret management course that we have and just run through it. I've been doing this since 2010. I know a lot. And yet, what I know is that there is more that I don't know than I do know. And there's even more that I know that I'm not implementing that I know that I am implementing. And so as you listen to this episode, you're like, Mike, like, this is, yes, I get this. Give me something else. This is the wax on, wax off kind of moment, right? Of understanding, like, yeah, like, and jujitsu for me on this perspective has been another great teacher. Is in understanding, like, yes, I've done this, but like, am I doing it well? Can I do it better? How much better can I do it? And so as you listen to the show, one of the main takeaways that I've had so far listening to Mike is really that, am I doing this to the highest possible level that I've been given access to? So in my God-given abilities in leadership and influence and service, am I serving to the highest degree that I possibly can while being the best me I possibly can? I know the answer for me is no. And in that is also cultivating the feeling of humbleness, because the moment you stop being humble is when you stop to question. And the moment you stop to question, you stop gaining awareness. And without awareness, there's no change. So both the first two steps, so the know yourself and what you need, the only goal of those, for me especially, is give me more awareness. Give me more awareness so I can change, because no change is possible without awareness first. The other thing, and the first three steps for me are the most fun, right? When I look at this, in crafting the perfect week, I guarantee you that when you do the perfect week the first time, it's going to be a slightly more augmented version of what you do now. And if that is the case, you're missing the point. Because in my mind, the perfect week is, as the word would describe it, the perfect week. Not kind of the perfect week, not a perfect week a year from now, not a perfect week a couple months from now. is the absolute perfect week. And you'll be surprised how much of it is going to be what you have influencing your perfect week versus what you want.
If you do a 2 weeks time study, you'll know. Because if you're spending time in the weeds or you're feeling that stress and that pressure, you've got room for growth. And the reality is we all have room for growth. So this is the framework that I always come back to. You know, if I'm feeling that tightness, I'm feeling that tension, if things are breaking in the business, it's like, okay, correct the process. Like, what is broken? So we're going to keep this one short and sweet. Hope you guys had an amazing Thanksgiving. Again, if you have not joined the Short-Term Mental Secrets Facebook community, I don't know what you're waiting on. We're at almost 10,000 people in there. We do live trainings every single Wednesday at 2:00 Eastern, completely free. We've got a 6-part course in there. It's just a place where you can connect with E and I, the entire SDR Secrets team, ask us your questions, completely free. We can go deeper with you. We do these trainings. You can come on, ask us your questions directly, and it's totally free. And it's a way for us to connect with our listeners, give back, have some fun, and help you guys continue to grow and build the business that serves you and not be a slave to your business. So I hope you guys have an amazing week. We'll talk to you soon.
Ciao, guys.